Boy, oh boy. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. So much to get into today. Welcome into the folks here on the Farzy Show YouTube channel, as well as JAKIB Media's YouTube channel as well. And, of course, the people on the podcast. Welcome in, welcome all. Phillies lose again. Nola looks better. Hall goes out. He joins Brandon Marsh on the IL, I guess. Cody Clemens gets recalled for the Phillies. Called up for the Phils. Joel Embiid's MVP status. We got Marcus Mariota being introduced as a Philadelphia Eagle. He had a fun press conference yesterday. I'll term it as that. Fun. Austin Krell stops by to talk about Joel Embiid and the 76ers ahead of tonight's matchup against the Miami Heat, one that Austin Krell calls a potential playoff matchup. And yet again, playoff problems for the Sixers. Those that are really hoping the Sixers can make it out of not only the first, but the second round, why the Miami Heat would cause a little bit of a problem in that regard again. So we'll get to all that and more on today's program. Look forward to having you guys along for the ride. Let's begin with the Phillies, who, let's just say this for anyone that was planning on going down to the home opener today in South Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park. That game has been postponed. I'm sure you've seen that news by now. They built in the off day in between the games, so it's just pushing it back one more day due to atrocious weather that we're supposed to get in the late afternoon, right around the time that game is supposed to start, and really through the rest of the evening. So no game tomorrow. However, they did play yesterday at Yankee Stadium, and the Phillies did lose again. This one wasn't as embarrassing as some other games. Unfortunately, though, the Phillies, as we look at the numbers, 4-2 loss, but for the first two series of the season, they've been more than doubled up on in their first six games, being outscored 42-18. So it used to just be a problem of the pitchers allowing a lot of runs. Now that's not so much the case. Just 4 runs yesterday, but scoring only 2 for the Phils. Aaron Nola looked a lot better than he did in his previous start. And instead of getting shellacked like he did in the season opener, yesterday was much more in control, much more in command. The curveball looked like it was snapping the way we have seen Aaron Nola's curveball snap in years past. So he looked to be back in control. 6 innings. 2 runs while he was in the game, 3 runs he was charged for thanks to a 2-run home run Soto actually allowed when he came on in relief in the 7th inning for Aaron Nola. But while Nola was in the game, only had issued 1 walk, allowed those 2 runs. Both of them were earned over 6+ innings of work. Unfortunately, the 1 walk did come in that 7th inning, so he was charged for that run. Overall, he looked a lot better. The bats have been inconsistent. A guy like Bryson Stott, all of a sudden, you look down, he's hitting .435, and you're seeing some consistency from him. Alec Boehm still has a high batting average, no hits yesterday, struck out looking to end the ball game. Never a good look, especially when it's a guy that you're expecting a lot of big things from this season. Nick Castellanos has been a huge problem in this Phillies lineup for the vast majority of the 6 games that we have seen so far this year, and you're starting to have some worry. They won 2 days ago. Great. Good to see it. You got it chalked up. I was really crossing my fingers for a series win, but it just wasn't meant to be today. There was a play in the 4th inning where Derek Hall, who now jammed his thumb, by the way, Derek Hall was trying to, I don't even want to say stretch a single into a double, but that's what he was doing. It was, in all essence, I thought going to be a double. It was a perfect carom off the wall. It was down the right field line, perfect carom off the wall as Derek Hall is rounding first, heading for second. I don't blame Derek Hall for going for 2 in this instance. I know he's not a speed demon, but 2 things went against him. 1, the perfect carom to Cordero. 2, the throw from Cordero, who overthrew home plate on that controversial Brandon Marsh play, where Brandon Marsh either could have scored or he ended up getting picked off at third base there. Whatever you want to call it, it was an awful throw by Cordero. So they decided, we're going to run. We're going to test Cordero. This time, he makes a near-perfect throw, and you have Derek Hall being gunned down. It wasn't the most accurate throw, but it was a bullet, and it caught Derek Hall at second base to end the inning, unfortunately. And that was just a bad read, I guess, there by Derek Hall in that situation. Overall, you're looking at Pache at center field taking over for Brandon Marsh for, I don't know, the foreseeable future, I guess. And I don't see a big league ball player yet. I now feel like with Brandon Marsh questionable on when he may or may not return, or may return, I'll say that. I'll be that optimistic about it. I see the Phillies back in the situation they were before they made the trade for Brandon Marsh, which was a situation they have been in for quite some time. They don't have a center fielder. Center field is an important position in Major League Baseball. Sure, Pache could make it to a lot of fly balls out there in center field. He's got good enough speed for that. Defensively speaking, he's a good enough substitute to play defensively. But at the plate, the man is lost. 1,000% lost from the plate yesterday. Only credited with 2 ABs, 0 for 2 in both those at-bats. So struggling is a word that comes to mind. He was pinch hit for later in the ballgame. Josh Harrison got his attempt to go out there and get some things done for the Phillies to no avail, unfortunately. The Phillies are in a tight spot. We've seen them struggle in years past. We haven't seen them struggle quite often with a 1-5 start to their season. I'm still confident, and I'm going to stick to this. I'm not going to base everything off 2 games, the first 2 games of the season. It was nice to see Kyle Schwarber get another home run yesterday. Maybe he's heating up. Long wait at the beginning of the season for Kyle Schwarber to heat up. I'm being sarcastic, of course. But second home run of the season, second in as many games. So at least it's good to see Kyle Schwarber starting to swing a little bit of a solid bat there through the strike zone. Kevin Long got thrown out. Phillies hitting coach Kevin Long got thrown out after it was Cave that got thrown out when he was called out on strikes. I don't think he was called out on strikes. He wasn't called out on strikes. It was a pitch that Kevin Long just didn't like. So Kevin Long starts chirping with the home plate umpire over balls and strikes. Leading up to that moment, it looked like the strike zone was inconsistent, I'll say. There were a couple of close calls on the corners that I thought Garrett Cole was doing a great job of painting the corners. There were some calls that Aaron Nola got as well, so it was going both ways. But it's a bad look when there's so many close calls, and then there's a call that was a ball. And in the same inning, there was a ball called at, who was it? The shins of Alec Boehm that was called a strike. And then this pitch to Cave was not a strike as well. So those close calls all of a sudden look worse. And I guess that's what got to Kevin Long. And he started chirping at the home plate umpire. And it seemed like there was a bit of a short leash there. Normally allow a guy say his piece. Maybe it was going on for a while. I don't know. I wasn't there. But you would think when you see so many close calls for both Aaron Nola and Garrett Cole, and then you see a couple of pitches from Garrett Cole there that were clearly out of the strike zone, still get called balls in that situation, strikes in this situation to the Phillies, you're going to have a bit of an issue whether you're the hitting coach or whether you're the manager or you're a fan sitting at home with a much better angle. Home plate umpire wasn't having it. Quick leash there on Kevin Long and decided to throw him out of the game. Guys are frustrated. Guys are pissed off. Quite frankly, they should be. Here's all I'm going to take out of that situation. Guys are going to argue balls and strikes. Baseball always says you shouldn't. Throw it out the window. It's always going to happen. When you're about to be 1-5 on a season, I want to see a little bit of frustration, not with the idea that this is, we're packing it in because the season's over 6 games in. No, not that at all. But just let it register that this is not the way you wanted to start out the season. Somebody, go ahead and get tossed. Let me see that you're frustrated. Let me see that it matters that balls are being called strikes, strikes are being called balls, and you're going to take exception to that. And you're going to say something about it, whether it's Rob Thompson or it's Kevin Long. In this case, it's Kevin Long. Let me see the frustration because fans are already frustrated because what we were anticipating this season to be has not. The start of the season has not lent itself to what we were expecting from this Phillies team. So let me see a little bit more frustration. Please and thank you. Phillies, we'll get things underway tomorrow. You'll see a 3:05 start time in South Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Park. And we'll see Zach Wheeler on the hill, hopefully getting a better start, just like Aaron Nola had a better start than how he started off his 2023 campaign. Keep my fingers crossed for that. As I mentioned, Austin Krell is going to be joining the show coming up in a minute, talking about the 76ers. But before we get there, let's talk some Philadelphia Eagles. And let's just start it off with this contract conversation here regarding Jalen Hurts. Pro Football Focus anticipates Jalen Hurts' contract. This is a little bit surprising. 4 years, $195 million. This is going to blow your mind. That's a bargain. When you look at average annual salary, that's about $47.5, $48 million a year. It's not as much as Patrick Mahomes. It's not as much as Aaron Rodgers, for instance. That's a nice chunk of change. Let's not get it twisted. When you're talking about elite quarterback play, and when you're talking about expecting elite quarterback play, you're looking exactly at that. You're looking at that number of $47 to $48 million when it comes to what Jalen Hurts could be getting paid as projected by Pro Football Focus yesterday. They put out this tweet. Now, bargain? Little bit. Mahomes actually at $45 million. So this puts him more than Mahomes, more than Deshaun Watson, more than Kyler Murray, and it only puts him behind Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson as the average annual salary goes. That's a bargain. I thought he was going to get over the $50 million deal. I thought he was going to get a multi-year deal. When Howie Roseman spoke at the owners' meetings 2 weeks ago, Howie Roseman had highlighted the idea that the Carson Wentz deal could possibly influence their deal with Jalen Hurts. Let's put yourself in the Eagles' shoes for a second here, okay? Carson Wentz was great. Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate. Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate. You had a good backup quarterback come in the year. You guys don't need the history lesson to come in after Carson Wentz was hurt. You go and you win the Super Bowl with a great defense and offense playing great in that Super Bowl, of course. Defense played great up until the Super Bowl, and not so much. Eagles got scorned by Carson Wentz. And to see only a 4-year projection for a Jalen Hurts contract, I would expect a longer deal, but maybe they don't want to give that longer deal to a guy who they have seen play at an MVP level only for 1 year. Now, let me be clear in saying this. Jalen Hurts is not Carson Wentz. When I have talked about this before, we had one guy play great like Carson Wentz for a year, then you had another guy play great for 1 year, and now you're going to give him the same deal. Then what happened? What's to say we're not going to get scored again? Well, I'll tell you why we're not going to get scored again as a fan base. Jalen Hurts is not Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts is the most mentally tough athlete I've ever seen. There's guys that have overcome things in their life, and that's great, and that's beautiful, and they have done wonderful things. But in terms of the maturation for a 23-year-old to a 24-year-old, the improvement, the maturity and maturation I've seen as a player, not just what's between the years, but actually watching him improve. I can't remember guys that have improved that much the way Jalen Hurts has with stuff, the doubters, the trade rumors, Deshaun Watson coming to Philadelphia. Are the Eagles going to trade for Russell Wilson? At the combine, the reports were, before Jalen Hurts had this opportunity to play the way he did this year, at the combine, you're listening to reports about, Russell Wilson, the Eagles kicked the tires on Russell Wilson. They made it off for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson chose to stay out there on the west coast and stay there and go with the Broncos. Okay, fine. But after all that, Jalen Hurts kept through it all. I'm above it. I'm above it all. Jalen Hurts kept that mindset, kept that attitude. And to improve the way he did, absolutely incredible. Things changing around him, he stays the course. I got 1,000 times more confidence that Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy than I did that Carson Wentz was going to be the guy. Eagles, if they're negotiating a shorter-term deal, shorter than the Patrick Mahomes 10-year deal or anything, even a 6-year deal, right? I think they're doing it because they got Carson Wentz in the back of their head. Even though they're not the same guy, if Howie Rose was going to acknowledge that from 2 weeks ago about Carson Wentz, I think that has to go in. If that projection by Pro Football Focus is correct, then, and let's also keep this in mind, it benefits the Eagles to have a longer-term deal because you can push money back further. So if the Eagles are only going with a shorter-term deal, or I'll just say this, like a basic deal, then that is a little surprising. Under $50 million is a little surprising. And I think Jalen Hurts should get paid. I've been the guy the entire time saying, the team-friendly deal sounds nice and all, but you could still sign a deal for $50 million plus as an average annual salary. And then 2 weeks later, you could defer that money and they could restructure that contract. Like, it could still happen. And I have no doubt in my mind that Jalen Hurts is the type of guy that would still defer money and push it back and still get that guaranteed money, but later in the deal to make more money available now to pay more guys to come in and help this team win overall. And that's not because Jalen Hurts is some nice guy. It's because Jalen Hurts realizes the business aspect of this game. And that you have to be able to defer money in order to keep teams together, to keep spending money, to keep having talent stay around you. Because the bottom line is, yes, the money is important. I'm not saying it's not important. But what's also important to a guy like Jalen Hurts, an ultra-competitive guy like Jalen Hurts, is making sure that while he is here in Philadelphia, he is winning. Very important. Patrick Mahomes did the same thing. Tom Brady, same thing. Defer money, push it down. Peyton Manning, same thing. Defer money, push it down. Oh, and who does Jalen Hurts look up to? Peyton Manning? Does he look up to Tom Brady? Yeah. I don't think he's just looking up to those guys solely for the way they played the game. I'm sure it's 90% the way they played the game. I think maybe the other 10% is the business aspect of the game. And those guys in their careers had pushback money to keep teams together, to keep winning together, to defer money so that everyone gets a little bit more of the piece of the pie, a bigger piece of the pie. Because that ultimately makes it a better team. That ultimately makes you a better quarterback. And it ultimately does the thing that we all want, helps you win and stay competitive. Let's see that. And I think you're going to get that type of stuff from, or that type of structure from a Jalen Hurts contract. But $47 million. That's not a bad chunk of change right there for Jalen Hurts and what he could be bringing to the table here with that money for himself. It comes in at $48.75 million for Jalen Hurts. So yeah, that's a nice little chunk of change for the man. Much better chunk of change for him. Marcus Mariota is going to be his backup quarterback this season. Marcus Mariota, to me, makes a hell of a lot more sense than Gardner Minshew. You could get in trouble with the comparisons or the words when it comes to what's going to happen here with Jalen Hurts and what's going to happen with the word style, the word versatility, what's going to happen if Jalen Hurts, God forbid, something happens. I always think it's a better school of thought to have a quarterback that is a similar versatility, similar style with your backup than you do your starter. I think that only makes sense. And I've heard offensive linemen in years past talk about blocking for a guy like Kevin Cobb versus Michael Vick, for instance, okay? Where with Michael Vick, you're blocking and you don't know where he is. He's going to be scrambling around and you're not sure what direction to block your guy. When you have a traditional pocket passer, a guy like Gardner Minshew, for instance, generally speaking, he's going to drop back and he's going to let go of the football. You know where he is. So when you have two of the same, the offensive linemen don't have to think about that. In terms of same style, being able to run, the versatility is the biggest word there. So when you look at that, I like this signing a lot more than I like Gardner Minshew getting acquired by the Eagles a couple of years ago. Marcus Mariota, of course, is a big talking point in Philadelphia from years ago with Chip Kelly. And whether or not Chip was going to get his guy, our friend Sal Palantonio, do the deal. We're going to do the deal to bring in Marcus Mariota. 3 first-round picks, all the conversation about that. Well, I thought this was interesting to hear it from Marcus Mariota's perspective. It was the first question of his press conference yesterday. 2 highlights I want to point out to you from Marcus Mariota's presser yesterday. And the first question was from our friend Ruben Frank of NBC Sports Philadelphia. What do you remember about those draft days, leading up to the draft days 8 years ago? And here's what Marcus Mariota had to say about it.
There was a lot of different scenarios, and it was such an interesting time for me because as the process goes, your agent will sit down with you, usually the night before the draft, and be like, hey, this is where I think you'll end up. My agent at the time was like, I have no idea. So just be prepared for everything. We really didn't have any idea where I would go, but I'm grateful for my opportunity that I had in Tennessee, and just appreciate the support from all the teams during that time.
That's a little surprising that he had no idea where he was going to go. I do remember the Tennessee Titans talking to him on the phone. They released a video of making the call with their first round pick and all that stuff. And they were just like, yeah, we loved you. A lot of people wanted you, but we were dead set on having you. And that was that. That's what they told him at the time. I guess when there's rumors floating out there about potentially unloading 3 first-round picks to acquire you, most general managers are not going to take the phone off the hook. They're going to keep answering. They're not going to stop answering. They're not going to block the line. They're going to keep taking those offers until the last minute. But apparently they were true. They wanted him till the very last second, and they got him. They got their guy. Did have 1 year in Tennessee with A.J. Brown before he went over to the Raiders, and then, of course, he was with the Falcons last year. But let's get to actually what matters. What does Marcus Mariota bring to the table? What does he bring to this quarterback room? What does he bring to this team? And what is his goal this season when it comes to helping the Philadelphia Eagles win football games?
Well, yeah, I think first and foremost, just being around a group of young guys that were still just trying to learn. And I think being around AJ, being around Devontae and those guys, like, they're just so eager to learn. So, you know, my role is just to provide information and just share experiences. I think as a guy that's played in the league now for 8 years, you know, I've been cut, I've been a starter, you know, we've won playoff games, I've been benched. So I just really believe that I can relate with a lot of guys, and to be able to just to continue to build that chemistry in the locker room and just be a voice and make an impact any way that I can. But I think specifically for the quarterback position, at ups and downs, you know, you're gonna face those throughout your career, and just being a guy for Jalen and just being a resource any way that I can to hopefully make him better and make the team better.
There you go. That's exactly what you wanted out of your backup quarterback. Those kinds of thoughts, that kind of attitude. That's what he brings to the table here. Starter there in Atlanta, backup in Oakland, of course, and was a backup again in Tennessee, unfortunately, but with things not panning out the way they were supposed to for a high draft pick, obviously. Let me tell you about my man Steven Singer before we get to Austin Krell of USA Today of paintedlines.com. Let me talk to you about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Mother's Day, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Not that far into the future. Talk to my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price, the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Diamond earrings, diamond necklace, diamond tennis bracelet. Make sure you take care of mom this Mother's Day. Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, where you get treated with the perfect price each and every time. You don't have to worry about haggling, negotiating. No, forget about that. Just calm down, relax, and enjoy the experience that you'll have with a real jewelry expert at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, we got this interview with Austin Krell. We got our chat check. We'll answer some questions in our chat check. Then we'll give you our morning rush, including tonight's tip-off against the Miami Heat in South Philadelphia tonight. Without further ado, let's talk to our man Austin Krell on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. Right now, the Rothman Orthopedics guest line making his triumphant return to the Farzy Show. A guest we love to talk to, especially towards the end of basketball season, at least the regular season. You know him, you love him. You can read him on the paintedlines.com. You can check him out at USA Today. Mr. Austin Krell joins us. Austin, what's going on, brother?
Not much. All I'm going to say is that the Farzy Show is so important to me. I didn't skip, but I left Passover early to be here. I might have wanted to. I might have wanted to anyway. That's a disclaimer that we don't have to get into right now.
I just need to hear what you told the rest of the family. Well, what is it? The unleavened bread goes around, and then I can't. I got to go do the far. How did it happen? How did you excuse yourself from the table?
So they gave me like. I don't even know what the food is, honestly. I think it's the gefilte fish they gave me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so they're like, do you want this? I'm like, I wouldn't want that if I was on an island with nothing else to eat. No, thank you. And so I was like, just give me the matzo ball soup. I'll have that. That's delicious as usual. And then give me the chicken or the brisket, and that's it. And then my cousin, who is a urologist, had to leave because he was like, oh, it's 8:30. My wife's at home, which is fair and valid. And then I was like, well, it just so happens that I have to be on a show at 9, and I am going to also leave. And they're looking at me and they're like, where do you have to go? I was like, I'm going to be on a show. And my family assumes that because I work in sports, I'm like super important, which is just totally not true.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just like, okay, he's important. Like, you got to go. And I was like, yeah, that's it. See ya. And I got the hell out of there. Had to talk to my cousin about Paul Reed for a little while, explain why he does or does not get playing time. as my cousin would like him to, at least. And then I got out of there. So
Understood. I can identify on the Catholic side of things when my wife and I did pre-Cana. My wife is explaining the schedule with the rest of the class, the rest of the Gentiles, me and my fellow Gentiles. And we're out there and we're talking about it. She kept on referencing my job. And I had to stop her at one point. I was just like, hey, just so everybody knows, I am not a doctor. Okay. My job is not that important. I work in the media. So my schedule, why she's saying this is because my schedule is often dictated to me by other influences. I don't have a 9 to 5. I don't make my own schedule. Now more or less I do a little bit more of that, but still got to watch the games when the games are on, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like, as a beat writer, I'll be like, my family will schedule things around me as if I am playing on the team. Like they'll say things like, oh, can't do that. He has a game that night. He has to take his pregame nap. And I'm like, I get winded, but I do not play for the team. I am not actually on the Sixers. I just cover them and write about them and listen to them speak before and after games. But I do not put the ball in the basket for them.
Fair enough. Although they might need you. They might need you come playoff time, my friend. All right. We just watched an incredible performance from Joel Embiid. At the time we air this on Thursday morning, it was Tuesday night that we watched all it unfold. 52 points, scored more than half his team's points, and all that stuff. I'm going to come right out of the gate with it here. After our religious talk, let's talk Joel Embiid. Is it fandom that he's the leader in the clubhouse to be the MVP of the NBA, or is this something that is actually coming together at the right time for him to finally be recognized as the league's most valuable player?
That's right. We do yarmulkes and basketball here. So I would say this. I think for a while it is fandom that guides it, because you're as fans, you are emotionally invested in this guy who you've seen build his game up and been through all kinds of shenanigans with this team over the years. And you see that he gets you can say robbed last year if you want. And he has the Ben Simmons situation. He has incredible season next to James Harden. They are blowing everybody out of the water all year. Very impressive. And you feel like it's there. You feel like it's within grip. It's attainable. But you also feel jaded by the people who vote for the award, because last year they gave it to the guy who you didn't feel like was worth it. And so I think now that Joel, he had already had a pretty beefy resume. They beat Cleveland in Cleveland, where Cleveland does not lose on their home floor. They beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee to end a 16-game winning streak for the Bucks in a game they trailed by 18 in the third quarter. They beat Memphis in a game where Joel had to literally change his style of play because he wasn't playing well on offense to, win them the game as a defensive-minded player. They up and down their schedule, they have padded. He has put together a more than worthy MVP resume, and you still weren't quite sure because they weren't the 1 seed. And Jokic has his phenomenal, efficient, statistical great season. Giannis has his great season, and they're the 1 seed in the East. Last night, after the straw poll comes out last week or whatever it was, and Joel is inching out Jokic by 2 points. Last night, he puts the stamp on the whole thing and says, "Here's what it is. Here's what I got for you. You can take it or leave it. This is all I have to say left." And he scores literally more than half his team's points, 52 of 103. And if you factor in the 6 assists in the game, he by himself accounted for 69 of the 103 points. So it is not fandom now. It is becoming a reality with each passing day. I think I haven't checked the odds today. The last odds I saw were like 1,000 at some point. There was he's moved into the heavy favorite category, especially now when you consider that at the same time as he is literally putting the Sixers on his shoulders to carry them to a win, Nikola Jokic out west against the 19-59 Houston Rockets goes for 8 turnovers and is a minus 21 in a 21-point loss. Mm-hmm. So those two events happening at the same time, I don't want to say it's solidified or that it's a sure thing, but it doesn't get much closer to a sure thing at this point. Like, there's not many games left for anyone to prove themselves. The resumes are what they are, and the lasting memory that you're going to have of Joel Embiid for the people who vote on this award is going to be him literally willing his team to a victory and scoring 52 points.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you 1,000%. Even though I only caught the tail end of that because I was still fixated on basketballs and yarmulkes, or yarmulkes and basketballs. What was it? What's the name of our new podcast?
I think it's Yannicka. Yeah, I try saying it, let alone listening to it. Yarmulkes and basketball. We're gonna have rabbis coming in as guests. It's gonna be phenomenal.
It'll be such an educational experience for me,
right.
especially. When you hear this term, voter fatigue, I can't help but just laugh. Like the idea of like someone trying to fill out a ballot and be like, "Oh, I got cramps," you know what I mean? When you hear voter fatigue, is that a real thing, or is that just something that we've made up as a society?
I do think it gets to a point where you're like this guy isn't like not showing me anything that I haven't already seen. We already know that Nikola Jokic is a phenomenal player. We already know that his game is he's a facilitator out of the high post. They're the one seed. We get it. It's time for us to maybe appreciate somebody else, or maybe with the way that this conversation has run, which I would love to go on a rant on that too. That you just get so tired of hearing the vitriol and the venom and the back and forth about this guy and M free throw merchant on Twitter from guys with 4 followers. And, you know, every single nasty comment out there, every single distorted narrative out there, you just get tired of it and you just say, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to vote for somebody else because I need this to end.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
So I do think it's real. I don't think that's a way that if I were winning the award, would want it to be painted as I won it because of voter fatigue for another guy. Like, no, Joel is averaging 34 points a game with 10 rebounds on absolutely ridiculous efficiency. What he is doing is absolutely ridiculous right now. Mm-hmm. He is, I say this all the time, he is a 7-foot shooting guard. It literally, that's what he is. And last night was his signature. This is my game. This is how I do it. And we're going to win the game. Mm-hmm. And it speaks for itself.
Yeah. Speaking of winning the game against the Celtics, is this the PJ Tucker we can get used to? Some clutch defense and then obviously clutch shooting down the stretch?
That's why you signed him. That's why you gave the guy $10 million. He does not like playing the Detroits of the world on a Tuesday, but you give him a Boston on national television. He is going to be the guy that somehow not somehow, I know how he did it, but he's going to be the guy that steps up to make 3 threes in a row when he hasn't made 3 threes in a game, I think all season, once the whole season. So that was the culmination of PJ being great. But I do think that the story there it is maybe the better part than PJ hitting the threes themselves. They're great shots. That was huge in them winning the game. When you step back and you take a look at what had to transpire, it was really Joel's coming into this is an adult superstar moment. Not this is an immature all-star. This is an adult superstar. Go back 5 years, and they're playing this same game. And Joel is trying to will the team to victory. And he is, they're doubling him. What does he do? He tries to shoot over it, or he tries to make a move out of it, turns the ball over, misses a shot.
Bad decisions, right? Yeah.
Yes, terrible decisions. It's and those are the catastrophic mistakes late in games that cost them, and they lose to Boston by 5. This Joel says, I have 50 points. They are doubling me at the nail every time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see that defender coming over. I'm just going to throw the ball to PJ in the corner and trust my teammate who doesn't get a lot of touches, but I know can make that corner shot because that's the right play to make. Making that right play, those right passes 3 times in a row, that is what championship superstars do. That making the right play in the guts of the game and saying, this is not all about me. I can't do it myself, but I'm going to use the advantages that I create for others, and I'm going to get them shots.
Mm-hmm. No, that's certainly what it seemed like last night. I called last night for that and his ability to attack the rim. And when I say last night, I mean Tuesday night. That was the best game I ever seen Joel Embiid play. because of his aggression towards the basket. It was a lot of bunny jumpers. It was a lot of fadeaways in the paint, whatever. But he also exploded to the rim, and we've rarely seen him do that with that regularity that he had in that game, and the ability as well to be able to find guys in the corner for threes. I thought that was the best game, I'll just say regular season-wise, that I've seen him play.
Yeah, and I think you can even look at, like, even further, you know, the people who enjoyed Wilt Chamberlain and the Dr. J's and the Moses Malones, they would say, I don't want him taking threes. He took, I think, 1-3.
I think he took 1-3.
Yeah,
he maybe took 2 shots or 3 shots outside the paint.
Correct. And that's been like a very good indicator of what he's done the whole season. He hasn't taken a lot of threes this year. He has dialed that volume back. Why? Because he is a 49% mid-range shooter. That is preposterous for a guy of his volume to be a 49% mid-range shooter. That's almost as good of a shot as a layup is for most guards. And so he simply said, I'm going to do this all night long. I don't care who you put on me. It's going to be Grant Williams, fine. Hal Horford, fine. Marcus Smart, fine. Any guy you want to put on me, I am going to do it. First quarter, his first shot of the game was a Hakeem Olajuwon dream shake into a mid-range jumper. I haven't seen him pull that move, I think, since his first bucket of his career was a dream shake at the free throw line against the Thunder. His 50th point of the night, when he was exhausted, absolutely gassed. He has Grant Williams up top of the key, flips him right over, and buzzes by everybody. Had the helpers frozen in their shoes for a dunk to get 50 points. It was one of the best. I don't care that Robert Williams III was out, and Jaylen Brown was out, and that they were undermanned. You had to win by 2. That was maybe the single best executed game I've seen him play his whole career.
What is it going to take to get this team past the second round of the playoffs? Is it going to be Maxey stepping up in a phenomenal way, unlike he did Tuesday night? Is it going to be Tobias Harris earning that contract that we like to scream and yell about? What will it take for this team to be able to get past that awful second round that has been the curse to them for 20-some years?
So I think you're going to need multiple guys to do things outside of their norms. And I don't mean like, Tobias go for 40.
Right.
I mean, do some of the little things that Tobias does not regularly do. Last night, I'll point to a play last night where PJ Tucker hits his third 3, and it's in the opposite corner of the previous 2. Why was he so open? Because Jason Tatum helped all the way off of him in the paint, because he thought Joel was going to shoot the ball, and he wanted to be there to box out to help get the rebound if it came down. Tobias Harris needs to be a better rebounder. He's playing 35, 36 minutes a night as a small forward, power forward. Too many times the shot goes up, he is outside with ball watching, or he is not near the glass. You need to get physical and get your body in there and block guys out to secure those rebounds and hold Boston to 1 possession or 1 shot per possession. Tyrese Maxey, it figures to be a swing player in the series. He can win you a game or 2 by himself. One thing you're going to need him to do is to be a little bit more confident. I think there were times last night where he has Derek White on him. Derek White is low center of gravity guard, long and athletic, can stay in front of a guy like Tyrese very well. And Tyrese, you could see, is having trouble figuring out, okay, I can't beat him to a spot because he's getting there in front of me. I can't really cross back and beat him to another way. I'm kind of stuck here. And you would see possessions stall out with Tyrese with the ball in his hand. And then that would spiral into he would have open lanes to attack off the catch, and he wouldn't take them because Derek White was somewhere lurking, and he didn't feel like he could do that. You need to be aggressive. Green light when the ball comes your way. If it's not a quick 3, you got to figure out, okay, do I have an angle here? Can I beat this guy? Can I push through him even if he's in my way? No, then I got to move the ball to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And it's being a quick decision maker in that regard. You're going to need James Harden to not have 6 turnover nights and to not shoot 3 of 14 and to be his 22 and 11 self. I don't think you can go into a series with the expectation of winning if you're going to get efforts like you got the other night, where guys are not making shots and Joel is having to play hero ball. You're literally those type of games like last night, you're looking at a guy who's going to average 45 points per game in a series, and they're going to lose in 5 games because at a full health, Celtics are simply gonna be the better team in most cases. But I do think that they can be beaten.
All right, so we got the Bucks, we got the Celtics, we got the Sixers as the top 3 teams. Cavs are obviously a good team, but the Sixers have had some success against them this year, of course. Is there another team that you see lurking in the weeds the Sixers could face before they would face the Bucks or before they would face the Celtics that would be a big threat to them potentially making it to the finals or the the conference finals?
The Miami Heat.
Still the Miami Heat.
They have so that's always going to be a demon for them because they have Jimmy.
Right.
But I think one of the most dangerous things about the Heat isn't that just that they have Jimmy Butler. It's that Jimmy Butler knows Joel so well, and he's going to know how to play on his weaknesses when it comes to closing time. And granted, it would personally, I think they would have won the series last year if Joel had been healthy. If he hadn't had his face broken by Pascal Siakam,
right?
Hate when that happens. When you get your face broken, it's the worst.
It's the worst.
But you know, I think that looms as a dangerous thing because if Jimmy smells blood, he will go to work and he'll
pounce. He'll pounce.
Yeah.
So this is this game that we're looking at that is actually tonight, Thursday night, 7:30 tip-off against the Heat. This is another potential playoff matchup we're looking at here.
Yeah, it is. I think the Brooklyn is mostly closing on that 6 seed, and I wouldn't be too worried about it, but it is still mathematically possible. I think that's why you see that on the injury report, Melton is questionable, Tyrese is questionable, and PJ is questionable, but James and Joel are not listed as of now. So that should tell you that they are treating this game with some sort of semi-normalcy and that this is a game that matters to them. I do think you'll likely see them rest the Brooklyn game on Sunday because they were like, you know what, we're just going to we win the Miami game and then we let Brooklyn just beat our asses in their own court. That should be enough for Brooklyn to clinch that 6 seed and keep Miami away from us. And I don't think this would happen, but I'd be very interested to see how a Bucks Celtics or how a Celtics Heat series would play out because you know, PJ was a big loss for Miami. Miami took them to 7 games and was within 1 shot of beating them. And, you know, playoff Jimmy Butler is a different animal. And I'm curious to see how that series would go.
Yeah, that's a rough one. The Jimmy Butler thing still stings. I talked to Zoom off a couple days ago, and I asked him, I was like, I know this is picking between your favorite kid, but your favorite kids, whatever. But the Jimmy Butler Sixers versus the James Harden, Joel Embiid Sixers, what team is the better team? And that Jimmy Butler team, I don't think was losing to many people. Unfortunately, they lost to Kawhi Leonard, who was the thing I took away from that was that Kawhi Leonard was playing at a level where people were comparing him to Jordan. National broadcasters saying no one's played like this since Jordan. And it was the only time anyone got a comparison to Jordan and nobody objected. They were like, oh yeah, he's pretty much, he's actually playing like Jordan. And that's how good that guy played in that series.
So this was back when I thought like hot takes were cool and like tweeting hot takes was cool.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that's fun anymore. But my take was Kawhi is who people think Kobe was. Like if you think about like how immortalized Kobe is and how he's treated like a god, and he was a phenomenal player. That's not me saying he wasn't. Kawhi Leonard, I think people take for granted just how ridiculously good he was. Not just in that series, that entire playoff run.
Yeah.
Joel's performance against the Celtics on Tuesday, I liken it to that, where this dude caught the ball at the elbow or the nail, and you didn't care the contest, how many guys were in his way, the quality of difficulty, whatever. It was going in, and you couldn't do a damn thing about it. And that was Kawhi that entire postseason.
Last thing I got for you here, the little push between James Harden and Tobias Harris on the side out of bounds, inbounds play, I should say. What am I reading into that? What do you know about it? What can we make of that?
So I did ask Doc about that after the game, and he kind of just nodded at it and said, like, yeah, James is our best passer. So I was like, so you just didn't want Tobias inbounding the ball. He was like, James is our best passer. I was like, okay.
That's great.
I got it.
Austin, I'm sure we'll talk to you, catch up with you again when the playoffs roll in. Regular season wraps up this week. Make sure you guys are following Austin Krell right there on Twitter. Check him out, paytolines.com. You can also check him out as a contributor to USA Today, all that. And more. Austin, great catch up with you, man. Happy Passover, and this has been Yarmulkes and Basketballs with Austin Krell and the Gentile Mark.
That's exactly right. It's going to be a great. It's a buddy cop, but it is what it is.
It's good cop. Austin, great catching up. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm here to help. I'm here to help. If you need to get any obligations, religious or otherwise, maybe work-related, just come on the show. Just come on the show. Just let me know. I'll send you a link. You'll jump on. We'll talk about your fandom. And I got to tell the boss I got to do a show. I'm sorry, what's that? You're our best accountant. We need you right now. It's tax season. I got to do a show. By the way, I'm a big boy. I already did my taxes. And it's not even April 14th yet. How'd that happen? Anyway, my thanks to Austin Krell for joining. Always fun talking to him. And yes, happy Passover to my Jewish brethren out there, our Jewish brothers and sisters. Happy Passover to you, and soon to be happy Easter this Easter Sunday. Ooh, I'm hosting Easter. In the new house, hosting Easter. Big moment for me and the missus. Let me tell you about Manscaped. How's that for a transition? Manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzi at manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. Skin-safe technology reduces the risk of nicks. So when you purchase their Platinum Package 4.0, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer and the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, you know you can manscape with that confidence and comfort. Go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzi for 20% off and free shipping. How about the great people at Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You like CBD? You use CBD? How about Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com? You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into the chart topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD, FreestoneFarmCBD.com. And you will absolutely love it. How about the amazing people at PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. And hey, how about this for baseball season, for bachelor parties, or just a night out with the boys? Having yourself a great time at the incredible, brand new Philadelphia adult nightclub called Sin City. Have yourself a good time. Places like no other. It's like Las Vegas, right in Philadelphia. And it's just down the street from the ballpark. So after the game, maybe after the home opener, you go down, you enjoy yourself at Sin City. The game is always on at Sin City, and you don't want to miss it. You can check it out right there. Sin City Cabaret, 6130 Passyunk Avenue. Have yourselves a great time, whether it's after the game, whether it's after the big game, whether it's a bachelor party, or just a fun night out. Check out Sin City, 6130 Passyunk Avenue, and have yourself a very good time. How about the people in our chat check? Let's get to the chat check today. Kevin, good morning. Sean, good morning. Sean Kilrain, Sean Gillespie, all the Seans. Good morning. April, what's going on? Phillies brought up Cody Clemens with the injury to Hall. Yes, they did. Had himself a hell of a spring training, though. Tell you that much. Yes, PJ, I thought you'd be excited about that. Bryce Harper, a little BP on the field at Yankee Stadium. I'm telling you, like, did I say May? The end of April. Bryce Harper could be back in the Phillies lineup. No, I still think it's May. Look forward to seeing that. And there you go. Putting up second deck home runs. Not bad. Did he get up to the second deck there with a home run? That I didn't see. PJ, did Bryce Harper hit a second deck home run? Oh, no, I'm misreading. Okay. Sean Gillespie, Jalen Hurts is worth every penny of $1 million. Yes. Yes, and yes again. Chip was willing to trade the entire team and stadium away for Marcus Mariota. Sean, he was. It's wild. I saw a couple people obviously going back and talking about the Mariota deal, what if it would have happened. And then more recently, yesterday, I saw somebody tweeting about the idea of the Eagles drafting Justin Jefferson instead of Jalen Reagor. That is the hindsight that I know a lot of people still hold on to over the last 7 years with Howie Roseman. And I get why, and I understand why. But there's always an action and reaction. The reaction is the easy thing with barely scratching the surface. On the surface, I should say, Justin Jefferson on the Eagles is great. But let's say Justin Jefferson is on the Eagles for that year with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has a pretty damn good target. Carson Wentz probably looks better. Carson Wentz might still be here. The offense plays better. One player makes that difference. It's a whole new ballgame potentially. Maybe we don't know what happens with Jalen Hurts. Maybe Jalen Hurts does not become a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe it's a different story. Maybe you still draft Jalen Hurts in the second round. But then maybe Carson Wentz still has a better year that year because he's got a much better target. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Sean, Bucks are at the 1, Celtics are at the 2, Sixers at 3, Cavs 4, Knicks 5. Yes, that's pretty locked in right now. The 1, 2, and 3, especially. Let's go Sixers, no second round exit, please. Sean Kilrain, I am with you. Sean K, hopefully, says Sean Gillespie. The Seans are getting along, and they spell their names the same way. This is mind-blowing. Mihai Sanchez, what's going on? Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Let's go Phillies. At least they didn't lose today. Very true. Ring the bell. Well, Weston Wilson, Matthew Croton, you are all about Weston Wilson. PJ, I'll defer to you. Do you like Weston Wilson? Men's. No, he's going to get cut. I don't know. I hate this time of year. I heard you yell at the end of April, and I was like, no, April, you're not in trouble. Guilty conscience. And good morning to you, April. Sean finds that funny. Let's get over to the JAKIB Media YouTube chat. Check and see how you guys are doing. Andrew Hernandez has one simple question. Draft thoughts? I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be boring. I hate to say it, but I think the NFL draft is going to be boring. The Eagles have a top 10 pick. That should not be boring. I think that there's a lot of hype surrounding Bijan Robinson that a lot of people are really getting amped up about. They really want him in here with Philadelphia, and I can see why. Very talented running back behind this offensive line. I don't like the money doesn't bother me as much with Robinson because if you're going to pay a running back at any point, especially with one that has 225 carries a year over the last 2 seasons, like that's a lot of mileage for a college back. If you're going to pay one like that, you might as well pay him for 4 years and then be done. That's 4 years is nice to have a good running back behind a good offensive line. But I just don't see the Eagles going that direction. If they sign Robinson, for instance, I'm like, yeah, this is a good or sign. If they draft him, I'm thinking this is a good move. It's going to pay off for the brief period you're going to have him. You're not going to have him at ridiculous money that you would, let's say, pay a running back like Miles Sanders for his next contract of $25 million. So if you're going to get a bargain price, that would be the area to take him. But I don't see the Eagles doing that. I'm simply saying that I'm not as against it as other people. I just don't see it happening. The area I see them going, as I've been saying all draft season long, is defensive line. Jalen Carter is the obvious one. I don't think he'll be on the board at that point. Lucas Von Ness is another guy that I know also visited the Eagles that could be a top 10 pick. He's the guy that could be looking at. When I think of Luka Von Ness, when I think of Jalen Carter, I think of guys that can throw bodies around. Carter more so from the inside, Lucas Von Ness from the outside. I think those are guys that are simply very strong, very aggressive, very versatile defensive linemen. Von Ness is more of the edge rusher type, but still strong that can just throw those guys around, create their own pass rush. Those are both guys that I think Sean Desai or Jonathan Gannon would like because really anybody would like, but those guys in particular because we're not expecting the heavy blitzing. We're not expecting over aggression. We're expecting guys in 4-man or 5-man rushes to win their one-on-one battles. That's for the vast majority of what the Eagles did last year, and that's how they had success. Both Jalen Carter, both Lucas Von Ness are guys that can go out there and can throw bodies around and win those one-on-one battles. Those are two guys that I think the Eagles are coveting the most in this draft. Later on, the safety position, if you're talking about need, and I hate even talking about that in the first round, Brian Branch is a guy that I know a lot of people have their eyes on, but he could be a much later first-round pick. He could be a 25 to 30 type of first-round pick. The Eagles, if they're looking to address need and still somebody that could be a long-term starter in the NFL, then he's a guy that could certainly do that in Branch. But I don't think it's a sexy pick. I think Lucas Von Ness or Jalen Carter will be on the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are the two guys I think they are most coveting. When we talk about defensive line, we always talk about defensive linemen that play versatile. I do think the Eagles take a running back, but I don't think the Eagles take a running back in the first round. Maybe you could do it with the 30th pick, but I don't see the Eagles picking at 30. I see the Eagles trading out of that first round to get more picks in either the second or third round. They don't have a fourth round pick. They go fourth, fifth, and sixth round without making selections. So that's a bit of a long time. So I see them trading out of the first round with that 30th pick to get more picks later in the draft. That's how I see it. Matthew Cronin, do we draft a quarterback in this draft? I do think you draft a quarterback, but again, it's another later round pick. It's not going to be anyone that we're going to be like, yeah, they got. No, it's going to be, oh, they got a quarterback. What's his name? I don't even know how to pronounce it. What school do you go to? Never heard of it. That's going to be the quarterback they take. The guy I always bring up is Brandon Allen out of Arkansas, who played in the Senior Bowl. All right, but he was like a sixth or seventh round pick. And he's been a backup in the NFL. So good for him. Played, I think, in the XFL as well. But I don't think it's anyone to jump out at you. I think it's a guy that, like Ian Book, for instance, is going to be a guy that you can look at and go like, oh, maybe he doesn't have a roster spot this year. But running back, I think they take in the second round. Quarterback, I think they take in the much later rounds. And then from there on out, it'll be drafting for depth and taking some flyers on guys, if you will. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great, both on JAKIB Media YouTube channel and then also on the Farsi Show YouTube channel as well. We should take Myles Murphy out of Clemson. I've seen him fluctuate just by staying honest with some mock drafts and whatnot. From like a top 12 pick to a top 20 pick and kind of fluctuating with different mock drafts that I've looked at. I like the player overall. If the Eagles get him, I'm not pissed off. I just think that if I'm a betting man, which I am, I think either Jalen Carter or Lucas Van Ness are on the Eagles. Myles Murphy is another guy they'll be looking at. If I'm the Eagles, I have him like third on my list for defensive linemen. But certainly a guy that, as I said earlier, can throw guys around, just not at the same rate as a Van Ness or as a Carter, for instance. But I do like Myles Murphy. I do like what he brings to the table, and I do think a lot of people really do like him in this draft. So I'll continue to monitor what he's got going on. But thank you, everyone in the chat from the Farsi Show to JAKIB Media as well. Let's get to the Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Morning Rush, Phillies not playing today. They're getting the Mother Nature day off. On behalf of Phillies fans everywhere, Mother Nature, thank you. So opening day has been pushed to tomorrow. Sixers are on the hardwood tonight, taking on the Miami Heat. Sixers tip off tonight at 7:30 in South Philadelphia. It's their last home game of the season, so you don't want to miss that one. Sixers are 4-point favorites against the Jimmy Butler-led Miami Heat. Joel Embiid. Interesting, and our man Austin Krell pointed out, Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton, PJ Tucker, doubtful coming out of coming out of Tuesday's game against the Boston Celtics. So interested to see what happens in this regard. Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, and Nikola Jovic. He's out. The other two are doubtful as of yesterday. So we'll see what happens with those guys going into today's game. As for your Philadelphia Flyers, they're back on the ice tonight as well. They continue the road trip. They're in Dallas to take on the Stars. 8:30 puck drop. The Flyers have lost 4 in a row. Who was it there? He was the head coach that night. He's an assistant coach under John Tortorella. John Tortorella, for those that haven't been following, John Tortorella is like, I'm out. I'm off the bench. I'll be up in the booth. I'll be watching from up there. I can't be around you anymore. Okay, he didn't say that, but that's what I think he's thinking. But anyway, so the assistant coaches are getting a run at being a head coach. And I can't forget the guy's name because I wish I cared as much about hockey as I used to. But damn, when you hear even if he's just a substitute head coach for a night, when you hear him talk about how there are guys in the dressing room who don't care, what the hell? Who can't wait for the season to be over? And that I get, because I can't honestly wait for the season to be over. So then you can really start the rebuilding process here, because that is what is in front of the Flyers. That's what has to be in front of the Flyers, and that's what they're doing. They already rebuilt their front office with the interim GM, a new CEO. That's where we're at right now with the Flyers. But when you have a coach say that you have guys in the locker room that don't care, and you're not going to out anybody, and you're not going to name names, but you know who you are, and your teammates know who you are, then hopefully that's a kick in the ass, at least to get some people's attention. Like, if you're going to look at a game that the Flyers could win, let's get crazy. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Let's say they beat the Stars tonight. That should be a little motivation, no? Stars have 42 wins on the season. The Flyers have 29. So it's a fat chance, but they play with a little chip on their shoulder. Maybe it happens. A little extra added motivation. So that's what's going on tonight with the orange and black. So I look forward to at least seeing how that game plays out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer and Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Thanks, everybody. And for the people on the podcast, thank you as well. Make sure you guys check out the podcast as well and subscribe to Farzy Show on both the Farzy Show YouTube channel, and check me out on JAKIB Media as well. Jim Hyde and Bruce Program did a wonderful job as per usual. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow to preview opening day of Phillies baseball at home, the home opener, we'll call it. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. See ya.